Hello, this is Jesse Heath, and this is my Week 7 discussion board post on the amendments of the U.S. Constitution for our American Revolution's course. I apologize for the tardiness. According to the U.S. National Archives, on September 28, 1787, Congress asked each state legislation to look over the proposed Constitution of the United States. According to Article 7, 9 states had to ratify or give formal consent to the Constitution. To this effect, the United States Constitution was ratified on June 21, 1788, with New Hampshire being the ninth state, after South Carolina, Maryland, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Georgia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. The remaining 4 states would ratify the Constitution by May 29, 1790. However, some states would recommend changes to the Constitution. The National Archives article on the Bill of Rights, which is what the First Amendments to the Constitution are called, states that the first Congress of the United States proposed 12 amendments. The first 2 were not ratified by the required 3/4 of the states. Numbers 3 to 12 were. Thus, our first 10 amendments. Throughout the history of the United States, Congress has proposed and the states have ratified a total of 27 amendments, the last one being ratified on May 7, 1992. I would say that many of the constitutional amendments deal with furthering the rights of men and women in the country. A few would deal with what I call governmental administration, such as Congress and the President, but many of the rest deal with the individual rights of men and women. The amendment that would spark change and continue to spark further changes throughout the rest of American history, I believe, would be probably the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in the United States. Passed by Congress on January 31, 1865, and ratified on December 6, 1865, it states, in Section 1, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction." And Section 2, "Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation." This would lead, I believe, the 13th Amendment would lead to further amendments, the next 2 specifically, the 14th and the 15th Amendment, which would grant citizenship to former slaves, number 14, and then, number 15, it would make it unconstitutional to forbid voting rights based on race. Both of these would be proposed and ratified within 5 years of the 13th Amendment. All 3 of these amendments would be immediately surrounding the aftermath of the Civil War, and specifically the 14th and 15th Amendment would be addressing issues that the southern states started bringing up. These 3 amendments deal with the rights of a specific category of people. These would spark the civil rights movement, which would eventually include women and their right to vote and contribute to American society and government. Despite cases such as the 1896 case of Plessy versus Ferguson, in which a man considered to be 1/8 African American broke segregation laws, known as Jim Crow laws, and was arrested and fined, he used the 13th Amendment as a legal basis for his argument. Many other Americans would do the same in the civil rights movement, especially looking back towards the 14th and 15th Amendment. Many Americans continued to endure racism despite these amendments until well after the civil rights movement of the 1950s and the 1960s. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments would be the first of several which would change the legal rights and protections of many Americans in the United States. These amendments are further attempts to improve our system of government, and as we can see, our government continues to try to improve. I pray that God would continue to bless our attempts and guide our nation as we make these decisions.